Thank you for tuning in to Faith, Family, and Finances. I'm Tim Brown,
And I'm Renee.
and we want to start this podcast to be a help to families. We've been married for 17, going on 18 years, and God has really blessed us, and we just want to share the knowledge that we've gained with you to help you succeed in your marriage. We have 3 children. Our oldest is 16, Allison. Our next oldest is Matt. He's 15, and our youngest is Kelly. She is 11. And we've been, like I said, doing this for a while, trying to stay on task with our finances, trying to live lives that are godly, and just trying to be an encouragement to others. By trade, I'm an IT. I'm a technician. I work for a hospital, and I've been doing that for over 20 years.
Yeah. And I own a small teacher consulting company called Castaño Spanish Teachers, where we specialize in laying the foundation for Spanish fluency. Right now, we mainly do our Little Estrellas preschool Spanish program. And yeah, I've been in business for almost 15 years now. So I want to reiterate that our goal in creating this podcast is to empower married couples to exemplify the love of Christ in their marriage and family, and to become financially free. And so if that's something you're interested in, I want to ask you to like, subscribe, and share. And also make sure you hit that little notification button if you're on YouTube so that you'll be notified of new episodes and videos that we post. So we're going to start off by discussing the number one question that we get asked this all the time from other married couples. And that is, how did you become debt free?
Yes, that's one of the big things people want to know, because we all know finances is a big thing when it comes to marriage. Because when you get married, rather, you come together as one. But, a lot of times we have different backgrounds. We're raised with different traditions, and different people do different things different ways. So when you come together as a couple, you try to marry that, and you try to build your own foundation of how you want to do things in your marriage. And so finances is a big one that causes a lot of friction in marriages, especially when you first start out.
Yeah, it's like the number one cause of divorce in America. And so it's really serious, right? Because you're bringing 2 different mindsets about money into your marriage, right? And you don't really see how it can be catastrophic until you start living together and you try to merge your finances and all of the things. And he thinks one way and you think another way. And, so trying to blend that, it can be difficult sometimes. And so we're going to be addressing in this episode budgeting, the roadmap to financial freedom.
Right. So
let's talk a little bit about our journey, Tim. Let's talk about how we became debt free, like how it all started.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Where do you want to start?
Well, in the beginning, we were living normal.
Yes.
We were living just like normal Americans. We had a car note, we had a mortgage, a little bit of credit card debt, but credit card debt wasn't a big deal for us because we would always just, at the end of every month, we would pay it off in full. So we never really got like deep into that. But we also had my student loans. Tim didn't bring any student loans into the marriage. Praise the Lord. He had fellowship and scholarships and all those good things. But I brought a little boatload of debt into the marriage. So I was reluctant to pay that off. Tim had a great plan of how to pay that off quickly, right? I was a school teacher and he was working in IT, and we didn't make as much money as we make now, but we made enough money to live comfortably off his salary. And that was his plan. He was like, Renee, we can live comfortably off my salary, and then we'll take your teacher's salary and we'll just hit your student loan debt, which at the time was around 40,000, somewhere around 40,000. But it kind of ballooned into over 50,000 that we ended up paying off. And I was just not willing to do that. I just wasn't willing at all. And he would, from time to time, he talked to me about it. And I just was reluctant to have that conversation because in my mind, I worked too hard not to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Right. And that meant a certain lifestyle. Um, Now I had grown up with no financial literacy. I grown up around people who said, student loan debt, I'll probably die with it, or, it's good debt. And so I didn't think much of student loan debt, right? It wasn't until after we had our first baby, because we'd always talked about what life would look like once we started having children. And so both of us wanted me to come home and be a stay at home mom with our children for at least the first couple of years of their lives, each one of them. And so here comes the baby after almost 2 years of marriage. Here comes our baby. Listen, and I'm coming home just like we planned, right? But the student loan debt is still there.
It's still there. It was the elephant in the room. Nobody wanted to address it, but it was there.
And the interest was compounding on it, right?
Yeah.
So it had gone from close to 40,000 now to almost 50,000, where the interest is still accruing on it. Right. And we would get the letters in the mail, telling us how much I still owed on my student loan debt. And I started listening to Dave Ramsey. Let me back up a little bit. I convinced you to get a BMW.
Yes, the BMW. Yeah. She convinced me. I always wanted a BMW. That was my quote
Yeah.
dream car.
Yeah.
And so she convinced me, hey, you deserve it. You work hard. Get
Yep.
your car. And I was like, yeah, I can wait. I'm okay. But she convinced me, and so we bought that BMW.
And it was not good. It was not a blessing, you
No,
guys.
it was not.
It was the worst car purchase that we've made since we've been married. And mainly because we were not in a financial position to purchase a BMW. But again, culture kind of shapes our way of thinking too. If we haven't gotten financial literacy within our home, right? And so I thought, okay, you're an IT analyst. I'm a teacher. Let's live a little bit and you deserve this. I convinced him that I didn't have to work that hard because
No,
you did make the decision, right?
Yeah, you didn't have to try too hard.
Because it was midnight blue, just like he liked,
Yeah.
And had the tinted windows. And oh man, that thing rode like butter until it didn't ride. I mean, it was smooth as butter until it, whenever it cut out. But anyway, that was like $20,000, right? You spent like $20,000 on it. On top of everything else, now I'm a stay-at-home mom at this point. So on top of everything else, we have a car note and we have all this debt from my student loans. And I'm starting to feel so bad about the pressure that I see on my husband because I could visibly see that it was affecting him, that like he was kind of stressed, right, babe?
Yeah.
Were you?
I could say that. I was a little stressed and just trying to make, like people say, trying to make ends meet. And so that was tough.
Yeah. So tell a little bit about your background with money and like your family.
So yeah, my background, I grew up with 7 siblings. My father, he also worked at a hospital, and my mother, she was a stay-at-home mom, and she never really worked a full-time job. She would do babysitting at the house to kind of just supplement a little income here and there. My father, he was very diligent about finances because, like I say, it was 7 of us, and he had to make sure we had all of our needs supplied. So he taught us and instilled in us, how to manage money, how to save, and how to take care of yourself and take care of your family, especially as men. He taught us that. So I always had a mindset of take care of your family, save, and just be a good steward over your money, what you have. So that was my mindset coming into the marriage. So I wanted to bring that to the table and just make sure that we lived above our means, but at our means and maybe a little bit below, so we could do the things that we wanted to, and also have all of our needs met. I never had never wanted to just live a lavish life, overextend myself to, overindulge in different things rather.
So yeah, and I can see that in you and your 6 siblings. Like all of them are fiscally responsible. And so we're totally different backgrounds in terms of our financial literacy. Like his dad did a really good job. I could tell that Tim, had a good grasp of budgeting early on into our marriage, which is why I allowed him to do it. Well, not allowed him because he's the head of our home, but I didn't try to come alongside him and budget, right? I just kind of just said, okay, you budget and you just tell me how much I have to spend. And I don't care about the numbers. But Tim, he would be very diligent. He had a whole spreadsheet. Like, I mean, it was kind of confusing to me just to look at that spreadsheet, but he
Yeah,
loved it.
yeah. I love spreadsheets.
He's the
Yes.
nerd. I'm like the free spirit. If you ever have heard Dave Ramsey talk about the nerd and the free spirit, you know what I'm talking about. But if not, we'll explain it later. So we had a lot of money fights. That was like the majority of our fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got along well until it came down to money because, I refused to come to the budget meetings or to be a part of the budgeting process. So often when Tim would tell me, we only have this much money for your spending money and you can't go over this or what have you, I thought that he was being really cheap and really frugal. And like, I kind of despise that. Like, why are you trying to kill my fun? Right. But he was really just being responsible because he wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of and that the 4 walls remained up. Right. So I started listening to Dave Ramsey about, I don't know how many years in it was that I really started listening to him, but I know it took 9 years from the time we were married
Yes. Yeah.
until we came out of
Right.
consumer debt, right? So when I started listening to Dave Ramsey, he wasn't as nice as Tim. Like Tim was really nice to me that whole time. He got to a point where he just stopped kind of talking to me about it because he knew it would, we would have arguments. But he was so sweet. But Dave was not sweet to me. Every time I would listen to him, I felt like he was yelling at me and calling me stupid. And I would get anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to go like 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off of listening to Dave Ramsey because I just started feeling like the weight of my decision in not listening to my husband when he had this awesome plan of how we could come out of debt within 2 years if we just lived off his salary and took my salary and paid on the debt. Well, there came a time when I was in prayer that the Lord spoke to me and pretty much said, you can either continue to cry over this, you can cry over this spilled milk, or you can learn from your mistakes and grow from it. And so that's what I decided to do, learn from those mistakes. So Tim came in from work and I started telling him, babe, I'm on board. Let's pay off this debt. Let's pay off this debt. And did you believe me, Tim?
I didn't believe you. I was like, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. I was like, sure, okay, whatever you want to do, let's do it. Because at that point, like you said, it'd been 9 years and we've been back and forth about it. And I just thought, this is, man, she just got a little excited. She heard something, man. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not gonna come to anything. So I wasn't really on board. So
Yeah. He didn't think I was going to stick with it, but I had made up my mind. I had repented because I felt that I was the cause of a lot of the decisions that we made, specifically that BMW. And really, even though the BMW was a bad choice, it kind of paved the way for me to start my own business. So I was at home working with Allison. She was around 2 years old. And I was working with her, teaching her Spanish, like doing all the research on how to teach preschoolers Spanish, right? And before then, I was a high school Spanish teacher. And so Tim came in and he would be like, man, she's learning so much because she was eager to show daddy as soon as he walked through the door. And he was like, you should start a business. I'm sure a lot of childcare centers would really come on board with this. Like, this would be great. And I was reluctant. But when I started seeing the stress on him from having to pay that car note that I kind of pushed on him, it was a great incentive to start my business. And that's how the business got started. I literally went like grassroots, knocking on childcare center doors and doing like an impromptu presentation on what I could do. And I got a couple of schools to sign up. And that was in 2007. And we've grown ever since. I've been in business ever since. And it's been a real blessing. So even in the midst of making poor choices, the Lord still blessed us, you know. But it's interesting because once my mind was made up, then the Lord sent the blessing that we needed. And we paid that BMW off in what, 2 years?
2 years.
In 2 years. Yeah. Then we purchased our Forerunner because after we had Kelly, we decided we needed something a little bigger. We purchased that Forerunner and we paid that off in 2 years as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is how we ended up getting on the debt freedom train. Like I started listening to Dave Ramsey. Tim saw that I was serious about it after a little while. And then we signed up to teach FPU at our church.
Right. And so we never really took FPU per se ourselves, but we knew a lot of Dave Ramsey's teachings and his principles. So we just applied those. And once we got those down, then that helped us start our debt freedom journey. And as we did that, people saw, and our church, they wanted us to teach that class so we could help other people. And so, we started, like you said, our debt freedom journey in 2016. That resulted in us paying off her student loans in December or November of 2018.
That's right.
That was the first big, that was our first big win, I guess, in financial freedom, paying off those student loans. That was like,
it was major.
It was major. Yeah.
It was major. And the process, it was tough. It was tough because we could, if you follow Dave Ramsey or what have you, you know that when you're paying off debt, you kind of live kind of scorched to earth. And so we cut a lot of things. And all the time that we cut things, we had to really face our mindset regarding finances. Like I had to come to grips with how toxic my mindset was because I cared way too much about what people thought. Right. And it's kind of no way to escape that because you're cutting so much and you have to say that's not in my budget. I can't afford that. The things that people avoid saying because it's kind of uncomfortable to say those things. Well, you have to get comfortable saying those things and you have to get comfortable with people's negative responses to those things.
Right.
And so I learned a lot and I grew a lot and I changed. And it was a really good thing. We did our debt-free, our consumer debt-free screen in 2018. And we have a video if you want to go back on our channel and look at that. But fast forward in 2024, paying off the student loan debt gave us momentum to believe that we could pay off our house. Right.
Right. And when we paid off our student loan debt, we set a goal of paying our house off in, we say 7 to 10 years?
7 to 10 years.
That was our goal.
And we ended up paying it off in 6
years.
In 6 years. So in December of 2024, we paid off our mortgage. And currently, we are living debt-free.
Debt-free.
One of the key things we did to become debt-free was budget. Budgeting was our roadmap to debt freedom. And that's what we want to encourage you on today to do, you and your spouse. So we want to encourage you and your spouse to First, list your debts from smallest to greatest and total it up. And then we want to ask you to sit down and imagine what your life would look like without that debt.
Yes. Because what you're doing is you're setting up your budget, and that budget is the foundation. Like she said, it's the roadmap to get you from your where you are to where you want to go. And there's a verse in Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 5 says, "Deliver yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, and like a bird from the hand of the fowler." So that's the kind of mindset you want to have when you're coming out of debt. It's like you're running for your life, right? And so laying that foundation with that budget, that's going to help you get you where you want to go.
Your budget tells your money where it's going
Right.
versus your money telling you where it's going. You are calling the shots with your money, and your money's not calling the shots.
hmm
Okay. And without a budget, it's impossible to become debt free.
A budget done correctly, it allocates every dollar. And so when you do your budget, you want to make sure your expenses and your income, you subtract those expenses from your income, it should come out to zero. That lets you know every dollar has been allocated to where you want it to go. And if your budget doesn't come out to zero, that's okay, because when you're doing a budget, it's going to take time. It's going to take you 2 or 3 budgets to get that process down. So don't be discouraged the first few times you do it, right?
Yeah. And we do our budget monthly, and that's what we recommend.
hmm
And both of us have to show up for the budget meeting. This should be done together as a couple. Don't leave the spouse that is better at budgeting, so to speak. Don't leave them alone to do the budgeting. You need to know where your finances are going, like where every dollar is going. So we want to encourage you to get together, do that budget, and also never underestimate the power of agreement. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 4:12, "And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him, and a threefold cord is not easily broken." So there's strength in coming together in unity. And the enemy doesn't want you to be unified as a couple.
I think that's one of the number one tactics of Satan, of our enemy, is to divide us. Oh, they say divide and conquer, and that's what he wants to do,
Right.
is divide us in our marriage. But
Right.
when you as a couple, when you come together and when you are in agreement, I mean, it's like it's nothing. It's nothing with God on your side that you can't accomplish.
Right. Right.
And we also recommend that you find an app to help you track your spending. You can, if you want to, if you're old school like me, if you want to have a spreadsheet and track it that way, that's fine. Get you a spreadsheet. But there are a lot of apps today. Banks, credit cards, they have apps that you can put in. You can connect all of your different accounts and it'll track all of your spending. So that'll help you as you go through the month to stay on track. As you see you're coming up to your limits on your budget, helps you stay on track. And like I say, it'll take you a few budgets. It'll take you 2 to 3 months to get that budget, to get that process down. But that's okay. You're gonna make mistakes. You may go over on the first couple of times, but it's a process. And if you stick to it, you will get it. And if, like I say, when you're agreed, you'll get that done. And you want to stick to your budget. Don't make any changes.
Right. You don't want to make changes in the middle of the month or after a few days. No, you come together, you agree on the budget, shake on it. Hey, this is it, and hold each other accountable.
Right.
You have to stick to the budget. A budget is no good if you're not going to submit to it. You both have to submit to the budget, right? And I want to say you want to make sure you list your 4 essentials in your budget, which are food, utilities, shelter, and transportation. And then you're going to have fixed expenses versus variable expenses. So your fixed ones are the ones that stay the same every month. Those bills don't change. And then your variable expenses will change depending on what you have going on that month. Our challenge for you and your spouse this month is to begin creating your roadmap to financial freedom by making your first budget together. And so don't get discouraged. If you're in a lot of debt, don't get discouraged. With God, all things are possible. But it all starts with the budget. Until our next podcast,
What God has joined together, let no man tear apart.
God bless you.